apologize for the improvised space, but my kids are home. I had to go upstairs to do this, but just gonna do it off the cuff because that's how everything works. So I'm going to tackle this head on because this is incredibly fraught, right? This channel is explicitly an expression of the lore and practices of a type of esoteric Christianity, which is implicitly Rosicrucian. It's not identical with it because the actual inner order of the Rosicrucians, at least historically, was a separate thing. But due to the nature of how these things are now, anybody can sort of join from anywhere. It's non-local, and it's an inner change, just like any adherent of Christianity in an esoteric sense. It's a change. So, so when I say first of all, on the channel, when I make references to the Christ event, mystery on Golgotha, the resurrection, all that stuff, I'm not trying to advance a religious point of view. I'm not trying to convert anyone to a religion or telling anyone to do anything based on these. I'm simply trying to present objective facts from an occult point of view that you have to use in order to understand certain things in the past and the future. I mean, Rosicrucianism explicitly sets as a critical point of its central understanding of cosmic history and human evolution and such as this event of Christ and what was accomplished esoterically and exoterically for the earth as a result of that event. And so you have to be willing to consider these things in an objective way, which is to say, scientifically, it's a principle that you take in hand and then you examine it and see all of the attached things and so forth. So Christianity, as understood by an occultist, cannot be thought of to be sectarian or in any way a competition for any extant religion, because it's the common property of humanity by virtue of us being human. And nobody can give or take away your membership in Christianity except for you yourself at your own discretion, based on your understanding of a relationship to the Christ in oneself. The jig is up now. The whole priest thing is no longer necessary, at least not for people that are willing to do a certain degree of self-exploration and so forth. It's the style of the time now, at least it should be, for people to have their own relationship, but not in the chintzy way that, Baptist or Protestant faiths will say, a personal relationship to Jesus Christ. I mean, I am very skeptical that these people really have anything other than, well, as Steiner would say, a very distorted relationship with their own guardian angel. That's a fun heretical speaking that I'll just throw out there, because at this point, who cares? But no, it's a common property and is not in conflict with any other religion. I mean, I am, in a sense, religiously Buddhist, and I practice certain Buddhist things, and I sort of have been drawn to the teachings of the Buddha in one form or another for my whole life. And so, in terms of a religion that I ever acquired in the outward way, it would be Buddhism, particularly esoteric Buddhism. But Christianity was acquired entirely in an inward way, just by engaging with the contents of Rosicrucianism and thinking about them and feeling through them and enlivening them, and just coming to a genuine understanding of what the Christ impulse accomplished, what the being of the Christ has done and continues to do, learning about it objectively like you would anything else, not in a religious sense, and then having understood, really, not just some propaganda from some church, but having understood the real essence of this, all your feelings about the Christ will naturally follow, because you'll understand and you will feel this connection because you're human and he was human, and these things come together inside you. It's an incredibly inward experience. A connection with the Christ spirit or impulse is something that is a purely inner, super inside experience. And for esoteric Christians, or just any Christians that have reached that relatively basic level of understanding, it's really quite gauche to go around trying to proselytize and convert people over to something that A, is kind of already their property, regardless of whether you have anything to say about it, and B, like, is something that they need to come to in their own time via karma and grace and free will and such. It's their own unique process that needs to be respected. And that means they may explicitly turn to Christianity now or in the future or whenever. It's not really your business. The only thing that you could ever do that would be legitimate is just kind of like plant the seeds. And I think that would just be living by example, trying to live by the example set by the Christ, which is a fine goal. Although people need to actually understand that example in an esoteric sense, which they don't, because it's not taught. You have to just seek it out yourself when you get the impulse to ask significant questions. It's like, well, I have to admit that these things are probably based in truth, but how much illusion is there really, right? I mean, that's kind of what esotericism is all about, is pulling back the veil. Because what makes things so complicated is that people are often thinking like, oh, this is a lie, that's a lie, or whatever. And it's like quarter truths and half truths are the real problem, because an out and out lie is pretty easy to spot. But something where you take a core of something that's true and then sort of distort it a little, like stretch this out a bit, like add a lie on here, it's way more pernicious. And most institutions that have longevity are based on some little quarter truths and half truths. And, of course, at this point in history, it's getting a little closer to just pure fabrication from all fronts. But you're probably aware of that, or you wouldn't be here. So as an esoteric Christian, right? Not like explicitly, like I don't go to churches or whatever, but as a Christian who has attempted to have this inner meeting with the Christ principle or the Christ being or whatever. And I'm not saying that I have succeeded or not succeeded to a certain extent, other than just feeling myself to truly be in some kind of connection, and the strength of that is just known to me. But it is such a personal thing that it would be so inappropriate for me to go throwing that in people's faces, be like, have you considered the Lord like Jesus Christ? I mean, again, like everyone's journey to this thing is just an epic undertaking of their own making of their higher self. And you really don't have much of a right to throw yourself in there and just start bandying about these ideas of Christ, especially because given the reality of the Christ, whatever stupid, fantastical nonsense you come up with is just going to be, weak compared to what the person would actually experience in themselves at the appropriate time with the appropriate whatever. So this is to say, like, this is not technically a religious thing or channel. I mean, it is for me, but what I am presenting is just the facts, ma'am. And I know people that understand the infiltrating power of religion to a mindset would probably be rightfully skeptical that one could be objective about something that's religious. But actually, you'll find it to be an incredibly refreshing thing because it is not only possible, but actually incredibly rewarding. And to that point, when you're an esotericist and you study like the true basis of various wisdom traditions, various religions, you understand the real mechanisms of how these things evolve and are handed down from tradition and antiquity and stuff. When you understand the true basis of all religions, your respect and like reverence for all these traditions, religions only goes up. It only increases. Like, it's not, you won't consider yourself to be in a superior position because everything, it's like, what color of the rainbow is the best, right? Everything is necessary. And like also to understand that, like when I make references to pagan things, it's not meant to be like a pejorative. Again, it's sort of meant as just like a historical shorthand for practices that preceded largely the appearance of Christ. And of course, these things do persist afterwards and are not necessarily like bereft of value entirely. But like, again, for a right-hand path type situation, we move people neatly into a place where they're going to be unable to sabotage or hurt themselves, even if that means it takes them 10 times longer to succeed. That's like not a concern on this path because it operates on grace principles. I think, well, grace and karma together, because that's like Rosicrucianism in general. Can't get into that now, but so explicitly to state This is not a religious channel. I'm not trying to convert anyone to Christianity. My references to Christ in an esoteric sense are meant to be treated as scientific facts with which to then, right, create connections, theories, and so forth. And again, I'm not asking you to accept these things like on faith. Everything here is testable. Everything about the mystery of Golgotha, the Christ event, is testable. You need to create enough of the pieces to move around so that you can play with them and connect the dots and see how these things interact in a living way. When you get enough of it together, then you understand it. It doesn't have to be a question of faith in the conventional sense. The whole thing that I would call it, and it's just a label, is conviction. Because it does require faith, but it also requires a certain rational understanding and meditation, contemplation as a sort of inner verification process. And it sounds like weird, and to somebody who is extremely skeptical and materialistically scientific, it sounds like you're just like deluding yourself or whatever. But you have to trust yourself enough to understand whether you're deluding yourself. If you're going to enter into any esoteric path, you have to achieve enough clarity and enough self-objectivity to be able to see when you are deluding yourself. At least sometimes. I mean, it's a learned skill, and it can always be improved because you can always weave subtler and subtler illusions for yourself, no matter where you get to. It's quite amazing. But I'm kind of drifting off now. So I wanted to put this disclaimer in because I feel like it's important. And rather than like bandying about, I'll just hit the thing head on and explain it. And I feel like I have sufficiently because it's been like 10 minutes, 11 minutes. So thank you for listening.